they're in the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. There's the trilogy. The Trinity. There's a bunch of Trinities you need to focus on, you need to remember, you need to keep in mind, that are very significant because it's a pattern established in Genesis 1, where it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. I'm telling you, created 3 times. Created means to bring something into existence. God brought into existence male and female in the same sentence. But in Genesis 2, the Lord God formed man. Formed, which the visible shape or configure of something. Well, you say, well, what's the Trinity on that? Well, it says God had created and made. Created, made, formed. Made is a mediation between the two. To construct, to build, assemble, made or formed in a particular place or by a particular process, by putting parts together. So it's a derivative of form, but specifically by putting parts together, as in putting your liver here, putting your kidney there, putting your heart there, right? Putting a rib cage there to protect your lungs and your heart and your liver. So the point what I'm trying to make is that God created, brought into existence, and made. And if you don't recognize the difference in the transition between God and then now Lord God, and the Lord God formed, which was one thing that God did not do. When we talk about the God, we're talking about the Spirit of God, which hovers over the face of the waters. The Spirit of God that hovered over the face of the water, that hovered over the face of the Nile River Valley. The God that said, let there be light, and there was light, the sun God. Ra. And God saw light, and it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. So it's telling you us that God created. God was a hovering spirit over the face of the waters. God said, God saw, God divided, God called, God said, God made, God called, said, called, saw, said, God saw, said, made, set, saw, said, created, saw, said, made, saw, said, created, said, saw. But he did not form, because he ended his work, he blessed it, he rested. He created and made specifically, telling you. Then they're summing up the history of the heavens and the earth. All right? When they were created. Now we're coming into a new chapter. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, before any plant of the field was in the earth, and before any herb of the field had grown. This is the transition between God and Lord God. This is where Lord has been put into the scenario or into the story, right? Because we're going from God, which made the heavens, the earth and the heavens, and then we have the Lord, which has to do with the plants of the field, that was in the earth, okay, and the herbs of the field which had grown, okay? So it's a difference. So now we're going into Lord God, okay? Again, had not caused it to rain. So again, this is a blending of God into the Lord God. They're trying to make you think that the Lord on the earth, the Lord has its association with the field and the earth, and God has to do with the heavens and the earth. And it's two different things. The field and earth are two words that are used synonymously at times and interchanged, but they are used for reasons. And a lot of times it's to cause confusion, okay? Just like now, there's a fusion going on. You can call it a confusion or a fusion. It depends on what perspective you want to look from. But it's happening here, okay? And when it says it has not caused it to rain on the earth and there was no man to till the ground, this is a Assyrian concept. We don't really know because we don't have a lot of reference to ancient Assyrian history. But ancient Assyrian and Babylonian history, Mesopotamian history, are entwined or fused, because you have a people, fair-skinned people, coming out of the Caucasus Mountains between the Black Sea. And keep in mind, again, the waters were divided. So you have the Red Sea and the Black Sea. Before the Americas, there were no white people. Okay, that concept of white people didn't exist, but you did have the bloodlines, and you did have a white race of people who were distinguished. Okay, and the Egyptians were in conflict with these people at times, but also at times it was healthy trade. It was times of allies, assets. It wasn't just all good, all bad. It was good and bad. That's the reason why it says the knowledge of the good and evil, because you have to have both to have a real solid understanding or knowledge. If you can't have knowledge without both. You can't have a whole knowledge of the goodness of the water hole without someone telling you to be careful about the crocodiles that are in there. You see what I'm saying? Because if you go jollying down the valley on the way to the water hole, unaware about the lions, the leopards, the cobra, hyena, the crocodiles, the vultures, you're unfit. You're unfit to be a sovereign human or even an adult. You are unfit. You have to be under the care or protector of a master or a parent. But if you were taken from your parent, then that person, may call it a stepdaughter or a stepson. We have a term that we use now called adoption, but there's a difference between bore and begotten, and we don't realize it. We weren't taught the difference. Right? Adam could be born or he can be begotten. Cain bore a son and named it Enoch. Then he built a city and named it after his son. Number one, Cain is the third person on the planet. In the minds of most people in our common culture. Obviously, that can't be true. But all right. Tilling the ground is hard work. That's the reason why the Lord God, who we know was a walking, talking person, right? Right? He, the Lord God and God are two different people. Even in Genesis 3, we talking about God. When the woman is talking, she's talking about God. When the serpent is talking, he's talking about God. But when Adam is talking, we're talking about Lord God. So even in the story, there are two different characters. If you got to have someone playing God, and you have to have someone playing Lord God. These are not two different, the same person. So it is there's a difference between God, Lord God, and then in the next chapter you'll see Lord without God. And this is because they tell you it'll actually tell you right at the end, of course. Then men begin to call on the name of the Lord, and we know what Lord means: master, ruler, leader, someone or something having power, authority, or influence. A master or ruler, as in the Lord of the seas. But the word Lord, derives from the UK, a title given formally to a baron, right? Someone having ownership of land, right? A compound, a plantation, all right? So it's a man of noble rank, of high office, a peer, a formal title given to someone having power. It's an English word, people. Okay? So Lord means master, and in this case, we're talking about Seth. So, why you think that right when in the verse where, and as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh, which again is very close to Cain's son, who was Enoch. Right? Cain just had a son. He named him Enoch. Why so close? Enoch. You gotta understand, I'm telling you, because Seth, just look up Seth. When you're talking about the Lord, Seth, they tell you he's an evil god who murdered his brother Osiris and wounded Osiris's son Horus. And they didn't want to tell you, but in wounding Isis's son Horus, and it's actually Horus originally. So Christ told us Alpha and Omega, beginning and end, first and last. They changed the languages, they changed the names. The Greeks influenced it. But Seth, right, is the evil god, or the god of the Redlands. Thank you for listening to another BlackSwanRadio.com, BlackSwanTV.org production. I've had the pleasure to be your host, Rondell Jordan. If you're interested in a copy of a book which breaks down all of what we just discussed in detail, please visit BlackSwanTV.org, BlackSwanRadio.com. All right, you just heard of Chapter 3, the Trinity, where we recognize the pattern that established in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 between God, the Creator, the Lord God, the former, okay, the domestication of man, and the master, the Lord Seth. Okay, so in the next chapter, we're going to be exploring more in detail about Seth. Okay, Seth, the master or Lord of the Redlands versus the God of the Blacklands or Kemet.